In the heart of Alagbede, a small, traditional Yoruba village nestled deep in the rural landscape of Nigeria, life moved to the slow rhythm of ancient customs and traditions. The outside world, with its modern conveniences and changes, felt far removed from this place. The villagers of Alagbede were proud of their heritage and resisted the encroachment of modernity, finding solace in the old ways passed down from their ancestors. Here, the values of beauty, power, and marriage were deeply ingrained in the village's identity, and at the center of this world stood Morayo, the village belle. Morayo was a young woman of unparalleled beauty, and her radiant presence was the talk of the village. Men would stop in their tracks to watch her as she passed by, while women both admired and envied her. With her dark, lustrous skin, large expressive eyes, and flowing hair, Morayo was the embodiment of youthful grace and charm. She knew this too well and took pleasure in the attention she received. Her beauty was her power, and she wielded it knowingly, teasing the men who courted her while delighting in the envy of her peers. One day, a stranger arrived in Alagbede, a photographer from the city who had come to capture the essence of village life. He marveled at the simplicity of the village and its vibrant culture, but it was Morayo's beauty that truly captured his attention. He took several photographs of her, and when he returned to the city, he published them in a glossy magazine. A few weeks later, he came back to the village with copies of the magazine, and soon, word spread like wildfire. Morayo's photographs had been printed for all the world to see. When Morayo saw herself in the magazine, her sense of self-worth soared. There she was, radiant and flawless, immortalized in print for the world beyond Alagbede to admire. It was a confirmation of what she had always known: she was a rare beauty, the kind that could captivate any man. Her reflection in the glossy pages gave her an even greater sense of her power, and she began to dream of a future where a wealthy, young, and handsome suitor would come from afar, eager to pay her bride price and sweep her off her feet. In Alagbede, paying a bride price was more than just a tradition, it was a symbol of respect and honor, a way of validating a woman's worth. Morayo was firm in her belief that any man who wanted to marry her would have to pay her bride price, as was customary. Among her suitors were two men, Akin, the village schoolteacher, and Adebanjo, the elderly chief of Alagbede. Akin was a young man who had been educated in the city and considered himself progressive. He viewed many of the village's customs, especially the bride price, as outdated and barbaric. He had long admired Morayo's beauty and sought her hand in marriage, but his modern sensibilities clashed with her traditional values. One morning, as Morayo was fetching water from the river, Akin approached her with a mixture of excitement and determination. His heart beat fast as he rehearsed his words, ready to confess his love once more. "Morayo," he began, his voice trembling with passion, "you know how I feel about you. You are the most beautiful woman in all of Alagbede, and I want to make you my wife. But I will not pay your bride price. It is an outdated tradition, a relic of the past. Marry me, and I will introduce you to the wonders of modern life. We will leave this village behind, and I will take you to the city, where we will live like the modern people." Morayo smiled indulgently at him but shook her head. "Akin, you speak of things that I do not care for. What will the village think of me if I marry you without my bride price being paid? They will say I am no longer a virgin, that I am unworthy. My pride is in our ways, and I will not abandon them for your modern ideas." "But Morayo," Akin protested, "those are just old superstitions. You are more than that. Think of what life could be like with me. We could have a home with modern conveniences, and you wouldn't have to do things like fetch water from the river. I will make you happy." Morayo remained unmoved. "If you love me, Akin, you will pay my bride price. Until then, there is nothing more to discuss." Frustrated and hurt, Akin sighed. He loved Morayo, but he could not bring himself to pay the bride price. It was a matter of principle for him. He believed that Alagbede was stuck in the past and that it was time for the village to embrace modernity. Still, his heart ached for Morayo, and he could not bear the thought of losing her to another man. Meanwhile, Adebanjo, the chief of Alagbede, had also set his eyes on Morayo. Adebanjo was 62 years old, a man of great authority and cunning. He had ruled the village for many years, having inherited the position from his father, and under his leadership, Alagbede had remained steadfast in its traditions. Adebanjo had many wives, and over the years, he had fathered 63 children. Yet, despite his age, he was far from satisfied and continued to seek new conquests. When Adebanjo saw Morayo's photographs in the magazine, he was struck by her beauty. He knew immediately that he wanted her to be his next wife, and being a man who was used to getting what he wanted, he began plotting. He sent his eldest wife, Yewanda, to approach Morayo on his behalf. Yewanda, who had been with Adebanjo for many years, was devoted to him and believed in his every word. She was used to the chief's cunning ways and knew how to help him win the women he desired. When Yewanda found Morayo, she greeted her warmly and began to speak. "Morayo, I have come with a message from our great chief, Adebanjo. He has seen your photographs, and he is very impressed. He wishes to make you his favorite wife." Morayo burst into laughter. "Adebanjo. Does he not know how old he is? He could be my grandfather. I will not marry such an old man, not when I could have a handsome, young husband who would pay my bride price and treat me like a queen." Yewanda smiled knowingly. "Adebanjo is not like other men, Morayo. He is the chief of Alagbede, and with him, you will have everything you could ever want. Think of the power you would have as his favorite wife." Morayo shook her head. "I do not care for his power. He is too old, and I will not become another one of his many wives." Yewanda leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "There is something you should know. Adebanjo is no longer the man he once was. He has lost his manhood. He told me so himself. He can no longer take pleasure in women." Morayo's eyes gleamed with mischief. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for. "Is that so?" she said, a smile playing on her lips. "Then I will go to him, and I will mock him for his impotence. Let him see that even a man like him is no match for the power of my beauty." Akin, who had overheard the conversation, was alarmed. "Morayo, you must not go. Adebanjo is a cunning man. You cannot trust him. He is plotting something." But Morayo was determined. She would go to Adebanjo's palace and mock him for daring to seek her hand in marriage. With a confident stride, she made her way to the chief's residence, her mind filled with thoughts of how she would tease and humiliate him. When Morayo arrived at Adebanjo's palace, the chief greeted her warmly. He was lying on a mat, pretending to be weak and frail. "Oh, Morayo," he said with a sigh, "you are as beautiful in person as you are in your photographs. But I am afraid I am not the man I used to be. My back aches, and I am weak. Will you bring me some water and help massage my body?" Morayo, feeling triumphant, played along. She fetched the water and began massaging his back, teasing him about his supposed impotence. "Is it true what I've heard, that you are no longer a man?" she asked with a mocking smile. Adebanjo smiled faintly. "Have you heard such rumors?" he asked, his voice calm. "It is true that I am not as strong as I once was, but I am still a man in many ways." As Morayo continued to massage his back, Adebanjo suddenly revealed his true strength. He overpowered her, catching her off guard. Before Morayo could react, Adebanjo had deflowered her, his cunning plan complete. He knew that once he had taken her virginity, she would have no choice but to become his wife. After the encounter, Adebanjo wasted no time. He immediately sent messengers to Morayo's parents, bearing gifts and the bride price. The message was clear: he was asking for her hand in marriage. Morayo returned to Yewanda and Akin in tears, her spirit broken. She had been outwitted by the chief, and there was no turning back. Yewanda, seeing the girl's sorrow, tried to console her. Yewanda, seeing the girl's sorrow, tried to console her. "Do not cry, Morayo. This happens to the best of us. You are to be the favorite wife of our great chief. There is no shame in that." But Morayo was inconsolable. She felt humiliated, tricked by the very man she had intended to mock. Akin, watching her from a distance, was horrified by the sight of Morayo's tears. He approached her cautiously, his heart heavy with sympathy, though a part of him was still hopeful. "Morayo," Akin began softly, I am sorry this happened to you. But this does not change how I feel about you. I still love you, and I will still marry you. Morayo, her face still strict, lifted her eyes to him in disbelief. You would marry me now, she asked, her voice cracking. After I am no longer a virgin. After Adebanjo has taken what you refuse to honor with the bride price. Akin nodded, trying to appear noble and selfless. Yes, Morayo. I love you for who you are, not for what has happened. And now, there is no need for a bride price. You are no longer a maid, so I can marry you without that outdated custom. Morayo's eyes darkened with anger. You think that is a blessing, Akin? That you no longer have to pay my bride price because I am no longer pure. You insult me. You think you are doing me a favor, but in truth, you are weak. Akin stood stunned, his confidence shaken. But Morayo, I am offering to marry you without the bride price. Morayo cut him off, her voice fierce. Do not speak to me of love. You were never willing to respect our traditions, Akin. You have always looked down on this village and its customs. You think you are better than us, that you know more because you have seen the outside world. But I will not be part of your modern fantasies. I am a woman of Alagbede, and I deserve the honor that comes with being a wife. Adebanjo has taken that from me, but at least he had the courage to act, while you only speak. Akin was left speechless. He had believed that by offering to marry Morayo without the bride price, he was making a grand gesture, a sacrifice for the woman he loved. But Morayo saw through him, and in her eyes, he was nothing more than a coward who refused to respect the customs that defined her identity. As Morayo turned her back on Akin, Yewanda stepped forward and placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Come, Morayo. You are to be the favorite wife of our great chief. There is no shame in that. The village will celebrate your union, and you will have power and respect in Adebanjo's household. Morayo nodded slowly, her anger fading into resignation. She could not fight what had already been set in motion. The chief had claimed her, and there was no undoing it. Adebanjo's cunning had triumphed, and she would have to accept her fate. That evening, the village of Alagbede was alive with music and celebration. Drummers beat their rhythms, and villagers danced in the moonlight, excited for the wedding of their chief to the beautiful Morayo. The air was filled with the sounds of laughter and joy, as the entire community came together to honor the occasion. For them, it was a symbol of continuity, a reminder that the old ways still held strong against the creeping tide of modernity. Morayo, now adorned in rich and colorful garb, stood in her home, preparing for the wedding. Her heart was heavy with the weight of what had happened, but she held her head high. She had always taken pride in her beauty, and now, even in the face of defeat, she would present herself with grace. She looked in the mirror, her face still flawless, though her spirit was bruised. As she finished dressing, Morayo noticed the magazine with her photographs lying on the table. She picked it up and stared at the images of herself, remembering how powerful she had felt when she first saw them. She had tried to rip the magazine apart earlier, but she had lacked the strength. Now, as she held it in her hands, the picture seemed to mock her. Her beauty had not saved her from Adebanjo's cunning. A knock on the door broke her thoughts, and she turned to see Akin standing there, still confused and hurt. Morayo, he said softly, I don't understand. Are we not to be married? I thought you were getting ready for our wedding. Morayo shook her head. No, Akin. I am getting ready for Adebanjo. He is the man I will marry. Akin's face fell, his confusion deepening. But you said you didn't want to marry him. You said he was too old, that you would never be one of his wives. What has changed? Morayo sighed, her voice tired. Everything has changed, Akin. You think you know what is best for me, but you do not understand our ways. You are too focused on your modern ideas, and you refuse to see the strength in our traditions. Adebanjo may be old, but he is still a man of power, a man who understands how this village works. I cannot marry someone like you, who disrespects the very things that make us who we are. Akin tried to protest, but Morayo cut him off once more. I have felt Adebanjo's strength, Akin. I cannot return to someone who is weak, who hides behind words and refuses to act. I cannot endure the touch of another man after I have known him. He may be old, but he is still more of a man than you will ever be. With that, Morayo handed him the magazine. Take this. I tried to destroy it, but I wasn't strong enough. It doesn't matter now. I belong to Adebanjo, and you belong to your ideas. Akin, his heart shattered, took the magazine and stared at it in disbelief. This was not how he had imagined things would end. He had dreamed of a life with Morayo, a life where they would rise above the backwardness of Alagbede and embrace the future together. But now, it seemed, the future he envisioned was slipping away, leaving him alone with nothing but his ideals. As the crowd gathered for the wedding, Morayo stepped out, radiant once again in her wedding attire. The villagers cheered, excited to see the union between their chief and the beautiful Morayo. Musicians played, and the air was thick with celebration. Akin stood on the sidelines, watching as the festivities unfolded. His heart was heavy with regret, his head bowed in defeat. He could not shake the feeling that he had lost Morayo not just to Adebanjo, but to the very traditions he had spent so long fighting against. In the end, it was Adebanjo's cunning and the village's ancient ways that had won. I could have agreed to pay her bride price, Akin whispered to himself, his voice filled with remorse. But Adebanjo outsmarted me. I will go to the city court and sue him and he will be charged with rape. And with that, Akin turned away from the celebrations, leaving behind the sounds of drums and laughter, knowing that he had lost not just Morayo, but perhaps his place in Alagbede as well.